When Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took office in December, he said that Israel is determined to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons. Now, just over 10 years ago, he literally drew a red line at Iran obtaining 90% of the material needed to make a nuclear bomb. So my question is, why has Netanyahu's position on this issue shifted over time?
So Israel's position and Prime Minister Netanyahu's position on this issue has not shifted, has not changed. All Israeli governments, on this, by the way, there is consensus, broad consensus in Israel. There's no opposition and coalition. So Mr. Netanyahu and previous prime ministers, all of them, made it clear that Israel, the Israeli government, the state of Israel, is determined to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear capabilities or nuclear weapons. But on the way to acquiring weapons, there are all sorts of thresholds that we would like to prevent, and one of them was portrayed by Mr. Netanyahu in the UN about a decade ago, where he drew a line of Iran acquiring one bomb's worth of 20% enriched material. And by the way, the Iranians respected that and did not cross that line. I think it should be understood by everybody that for Israel, this is a threat of existential dimension, strategic threat, and Israel is determined to prevent Iran from acquiring the capability to become a nuclear armed state.
The Biden administration has said that it believes Iran is several weeks away from having enough material to make a bomb, several weeks away from having a nuclear breakout capability. And they've said that Iran has been at this level for quite a while, for more than a year actually. What is Israel's view of the timeline here?
So when we talk about Iran acquiring nuclear weapons, there are two major elements. One is the fissile material itself, the enrichment, and the other one is weaponization. When it comes to the fissile material, as the US administration has indicated, and we agree, the timeline is such that Iran, within weeks, could acquire one bomb's worth of military-grade fissile material, and that is of concern, of course, to everybody. When you talk about weaponization, it's a longer timeline, but we have to address both dimensions. We cannot focus just on one and not on the other, and we are focused on both dimensions.
Why is it that Iran seems to have stayed at this level of being a few weeks away from enough fissile material for so long?
Because I think the Iranians realize that there are consequences to crossing certain thresholds. If they go to military-grade enrichment, and they're not far away, they're enriching to 60%, which is one notch below, so they're not far away, but they realize that if they cross that threshold, then there will be consequences, because I don't think, certainly Israel is not going to be indifferent to start such a development. And I dare say also the United States will probably respond to that.
Well, the United States was trying under President Biden to revive the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, or the JCPOA, to kind of keep Iran at a much lower level in terms of its fissile material. But recently they've been saying that they're no longer focused on trying to revive the JCPOA because of Iran's violent crackdown on protests, because of Iran's assistance to Russia in attacking Ukraine. But the Biden administration is continuing to honor some parts of that 2015 deal. For example, earlier this month, the Washington Free Beacon reported that the US has extended some sanctions waivers that allow Iran and Russia to cooperate on civilian nuclear projects. The US also revoked another waiver for another project that Iran and Russia are involved in. So what is Israel's view of this US policy?
So first, I think it's clear to everyone that the nuclear deal is off the agenda for now. I'm not suggesting that it is dead, but it's off the agenda for now. It is clear that this is not the environment now to sit down with Iran, secure a deal, release hundreds of billions of dollars to the Iranian regime. I don't think this is on the table right now. Neither the United States nor its European allies are going down that road for now. Per the specific question you asked, there are elements which were agreed upon in the past whereby some external actors, not only Russia but also some Western European actors, were allowed to make sure that the configuration of some of the Iranian facilities will be only for civilian purposes and not military ones, and that's totally understandable.
Well, with the U.S. saying that the JCPOA talks are off the table, what is the plan B for the United States and Israel to prevent Iran from getting even closer to nuclear weapon capability than they are now? What does that plan B look like in practice?
So Israel and the United States are in a very close dialogue on the situation we just discussed, namely the deal is off the table, so what do we do in order to prevent Iran from moving ahead? We are looking at a holistic strategy which encompasses all dimensions of Iranian activities, including in the nuclear field, in the regional field, the cooperation between Iran and Russia, and the internal situation in Iran, which has to be factored into any strategic thinking about the situation. I think a critical element is to enhance deterrence vis-à-vis Iran, so Iranians understand that there are consequences if they move ahead with their program, or to that extent with their regional activities. They are a major destabilizing factor in the Middle East, or to that extent their cooperation with Russia. We are looking at all of these elements. And here I would like to emphasize that we're very much focused on the internal situation in Iran. We see what's happening there. We cannot stay indifferent. We see the regime butchering its own people. We see people demanding those liberties. We believe that what's happening in Iran is essentially the regime losing its own population. I think the gap is huge, is unbridgeable. And this is something that cannot be ignored. And to the extent that any of us, from the outside, can express our sympathy and support for the brave Iranian people, so we need to do it, and we do it. And I take this opportunity, this interview, to do it myself.